That sounds like just a big number, but when you open the doors to each one of those households, you find unbelievable stories. People who are doing incredible things with their lives or who have had remarkable experiences. And unfortunately for you, I've been the rabbi here a long time, and so you keep hearing the same things from me over and over and over again. But this is the opportunity we have each year at Yom Kippur for members of the congregation that you may have seen before when you pass by each other grabbing a chocolate chip cookie. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to mention that. At Oneg, or maybe when you pass by each other in halls as you're bringing kids back and forth to religious school or whatever it may be, and to have the opportunity to learn from their experience and their wisdom, from their professional expertise or from their lived experience. And I'm very, very grateful to each of our speakers for being willing to speak with us today. Normally, I think in a context other than Yom Kippur afternoon, when people are either tired or sleepy or cranky, they would fill rooms filled with hundreds and hundreds of people. And we're grateful that you are all here. For those who are watching us online, we hope that you're enjoying as well. And we're always grateful for those literally around the world who join us for our celebration of the High Holy Days, and also on Shabbat. I remember during COVID, we did a program, and we did a little breakout session, and this woman named Claire, I remember her name was Claire, didn't turn her camera on, and I said, well, Claire, you're welcome to put your camera on if you want to, and she said, well, I would, but it's really late here. It's like 4 a.m. I said, where are you? She says, I'm in Mauritius. Does anyone know where Mauritius is? Barbara knows where Mauritius is. It's an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, about an hour and a half east of Madagascar. And I said, wow. She says, I said, how did you find us? She said, well, it was COVID, and I was looking for a Passover Seder, and I found you, and I log on usually on Saturday mornings to watch your Friday night service, but this thing looked really interesting, so I decided I would stay up and participate. So if you don't mind, I'm going to keep the camera off because I'm actually sitting in bed. So for those of you who are joining us from wherever you are, we're glad that you're here with us. Our first speaker today is Mariya Kemper-Reiss. Mariya was born in Ukraine, and at the age of 15 came to the United States after her family fled the anti-Semitism and repression of the former Soviet Union. But when Ukraine was invaded by Russia in February of 2022, Mariya, as she'll tell us, was taken with a sense of responsibility to aid the people from her former homeland. And she realized that they were suffering tremendously from the impact of the Russian attacks. So initially pulling together an effort to send an entire shipping container full of relief supplies, Mariya formed Boca Helps Ukraine, and for more than 2 years has worked to support the city of Kherson, I hope I'm saying that correctly, which has endured enormous hardship through the trials of the war, and she is the mother of 2 sons, Logan and Cooper. Mariya.
Getting old, need my readers. So, my name is Mariya Kemper-Reiss, and I'm a very proud member of Temple Bethel. I'm also a proud Ukrainian, a term I love to use when I describe who I am. But first, let's talk about another term, stateless. This is what the Soviet Jews were called when we were able to finally leave the Soviet Union. For hundreds of years, my family lived in the Russian Empire, and then after the Communist Revolution, it became the Soviet Union. Life was not easy for Jews in the Russian Empire. Many of you have heard of the term called Pale of Settlement, where all the Jews were forced to live in mostly Ukrainian and Belarusian provinces, not allowed in the large cities unless they had special documents that gave them permission. Attending universities was almost impossible, and even small-town shtetl life was not a walk in the park. So when the wave of unrest and revolutionary ideas swept through the Russian Empire, guess what? The Jews embraced it as their call to action. One of these Jews was my great-grandfather, Mark Goldrin, who was quick to embrace the revolution and was a big part of the movement in the southern part of Ukraine in the city called Kherson. Remember that name because it will come up in the story later on. He was a mid-level Cheka officer, but Jews comprised a very large number of the revolutionary leaders throughout the country. Too good to be true, and it was. Slowly, things started changing, and Stalin rose to power and felt a threat from many of the Jews, including Trotsky. And just like always, the Jews became the enemies and the scapegoats during the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. Massive arrests and shootings were disproportionately suffered by the Jews. And to keep them in line, quotas were established in universities, ballet academies, and even workplaces. Only a handful of Jews could be admitted to those places. Institutionalized anti-Semitism, that's what it became. It was always there. Every member of my family felt it, including me. My brilliant parents could not be accepted to the Kiev University because there was a quota on Jews. I could not be accepted to the State Ballet Academy as my father was told there was only one spot for a Jewish girl. And it was already predetermined months ago it wasn't going to be me. Oh, and the worst part of it, with no religion and the atheist state, being Jewish became a nationality. And the fifth line in every document stated if you were Russian, Ukrainian, or Jewish. Going to the temple was not allowed, and my grandmother would try to visit during high holidays and hide around the corner, not wanting to get anyone in the family in trouble. Yes, although my family lived in Ukraine for many generations, we were not Ukrainian. And in some ways, we were not the same as Ukrainians. We had different traditions, even different food. Yes, we all ate borscht and still do, but yet, for the Jewish holidays, we ate gefilte fish, and the Ukrainians didn't. We were Jewcranians. So when you hear about Liev Schreiber, Kirk Douglas, Steven Spielberg, and many other famous celebrities having Ukrainian roots, they were like me, Jewcranians. As an aspiring ballerina, I was at first oblivious to my Jewish identity. Probably gonna see some pictures of my happy childhood. By the way, children don't smile when they take pictures, so it was partially happy, but no one ever smiled. But then I started to hear a few whispers, a Jewish joke here and there, and then my best friend Anya, who was actually an ethnic Russian, stormed in and said, "Don't pay any attention to anything anyone says about you." After one of our friends called her to the side and tried to tell her some bizarre thing about Jews eating babies. And then you become self-conscious and very aware. And as you grow, you pay more attention and ask your parents questions. And then you go to Germany with your ballet school in a group of 20 as the only Jewish girl. A tour of the Buchenwald concentration camp, and you feel completely paralyzed and alone and different. Now you truly find that you are Jewish. My entire family had these experiences, so when the time came, we gave up everything. And in 1989, we gave up our citizenship. That's why we were called stateless when we were coming here. We were called enemies of the state, and when we applied to leave the Soviet Union. And as we exited, we became stateless. And by the way, I have met a number of Temple Bethel members who helped us leave, who put pressure on the US government and the Soviet government. And we are forever truly thankful. So thank you very much for that. So in December 1989, our family arrived at JFK Airport as stateless political refugees who were Jewish on paper, but not in practice. The only person who has ever stepped foot in a synagogue was my grandmother, and that was only a few times in her life. So we carried on for years trying to become Americanized, concentrating on our future and careers, getting good grades, boys. I guess the turning point for me personally was meeting a young man at a marketing industry party in the fall of 2002. By then, I had a successful career in advertising and was dragged to a production company party by a coworker. When I was almost ready to leave, I somehow struck out a conversation with a young man who I'm actually noticed a little earlier. We chatted for a while, and then during the cell phone number exchange, he said his name was Brian Reiss. I was intrigued, and I wanted to know the origin of his last name. So he smiled and said that the name had German origins, but it could also be Jewish. I then added that Kemper also had German origins and also could be Jewish. And then, like in movie magic, we kind of turned to each other and said, well, mine is Jewish. Every Jewish parent's dream. We got married on May 1st, 2004 in Temple Beth Shalom in Brooklyn, and my journey to Jewishness officially began. Step by step, a girl who grew up with no religion was now raising Jewish kids who both got B'nai Mitzvot right here in Temple Bethel. In 2006, just 2 years after we got married, I returned back to Kyiv, to a country that was now called Ukraine. And it was in existence for only 15 years since Soviet Union fell apart in 1990. I was floored by the positivity and the enthusiasm that we encountered. The young people were so hopeful for a better future, so eager to speak Ukrainian and English, and to learn about the past. There was some familiarity with the city, but yet everything had changed. I was able to reconnect with my family, and during the first Russian invasion in 2014, we were able to get them over to the United States. My cousin Vlad just finished Kyiv University and was able to complete his MBA. He decided to return to Ukraine and started a successful business. The country was booming. Young people were returning from overseas and investing in the future of Ukraine. But then everything changed on February 24th, 2022. During the early morning hours, Russia invaded Ukraine from the north and the east. And as I watched on TV in horror, hearing the air sirens go off in Kyiv with plumes of smoke in the background, still get goosebumps when I talk about it. The calls and texts started flooding in about my family and friends in Ukraine. And the next question from everyone was, what can we do to help? All of a sudden, my Ukrainian identity was front and center. It took me a few days of total shock to recover, and then with the help of amazing Temple Bethel leadership and friends and my awesome family, we sprang into action. Ukrainian people needed our help, and that's how your heart starts bleeding blue and yellow. You don't think about Jews versus non-Jews. You see people fleeing their homes to stay alive, and you say to yourself, these are my people. This community helped fill a 40-foot container of humanitarian aid. We sent winter coats to over 1,000 children, sent school supplies and holiday gifts, and so much more. And that's how Boca Helps Ukraine became a reality. We have 3 directors. Myself and Pauline, who's actually watching from home right now, are Ukrainians. And Mariya, who's right here, is an ethnic Ukrainian with some faint Jewish DNA in her blood. But we're all in this together. And just like that, many years of feeling different and not belonging were erased by our deeds together. Is there still anti-Semitism in Ukraine? Probably, to some extent. But I think it exists in this country and all around the world. But with a Jewish president and a call for unity, I have not felt it through my travels or my latest experiences. When we see the faces of the children we helped, and knowing that we make a difference in their lives, nothing else matters. So back to Boca Helps Ukraine for a minute. Non-existence for over 2 years, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We focus our efforts on helping people in southern Ukraine. Remember that town, Kherson, where my great-grandfather and grandfather come from? That's who we're helping. So my connections from hundreds of years ago actually paying off right now. And the city is currently liberated. It was occupied when Russia invaded in 2022. It was liberated 2 years ago. but it still suffers near constant shelling and drone attacks. There are still 10,000 children who remain in that city, living mostly underground, and they need our help. Winter clothing and holiday gifts are our next big fundraising push. Please consider a donation, as every dollar will make a difference in these kids' lives. A $50 donation will go a long way and will afford a meaningful holiday gift package along with a personalized card. You see our QR code. You could visit us at bocahelpsukraine.org or snap a picture and it will take you to our landing page. I ask that if you can, please donate and support and send the information around. And I want to pray for peace in Ukraine and in Israel, two of my homelands, essentially, that are currently at war. Slava Ukraini, and I'm Israel Chai. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Mariya. Our next speaker is Jonathan Grayer. Jonathan grew up in Connecticut and has built his company, Imagine Learning, into the largest digital curriculum provider to K-12 schools in the U.S., serving over 15 million students through core, supplemental, and interventional learning. The power of Imagine Learning's data-driven personalization helps teachers better tailor their lessons and lets families and administrators better understand student progress. Prior to leading Imagine Learning, Jonathan was the chairman and CEO of Kaplan, Inc., the largest division of what was used to be called the Washington Post Company. He transformed it from an $80 million test prep business to a $2.3 billion global leader in higher education and professional training, supporting learners in pursuit of their academic and career goals. Jonathan's corporate and personal philanthropy centers around helping underserved young people gain access to better education, housing, and nutrition. In addition, he serves on the board of Memorial Sloan Kettering's Cancer Center, where he is the chair of the Patient Care Committee. He is the father of 4 children, daughters Annie and Sophie, and sons Benji and Charlie. Thank you, Jonathan.
Mariya, let me start off by addressing you. There you are. So my grandparents moved to Boca in 1975, Harold and Dorothy, and they were both from Kiev, born in 1910 and 1915, and they're in the mausoleum here. I moved down 4 years ago, so I like to give $10,000 to your efforts in their name. My family foundation, Dorothy and Harold would be quite happy and proud and tell everyone how I did that. But hi, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about education, digital education, and artificial intelligence. When you all hear it, you probably first think cheating. Right, Charlie? Where's Charlie? There's Charlie. The debate of how much ChatGPT should actually drive how kids learn. But the headline here is that most of what it is has been around in what's called machine learning for about 15 years. And that machine learning process is using data to make predictive pathways for learners of all kinds. What changed a year ago was something called a large language model, LLM. Who's heard of that here? And what that does is it allows us to use the words that we know to control the data that we don't. So the idea of saying, write a speech about the impact of artificial intelligence on K-12 learning today can be done through ChatGPT. You all could do it, but it wouldn't be unique. It would be the machine generating what was possible. The cheating issue will come and go. It's not as big a challenge, and we can get to some questions about that in a bit. But I want to read you something that I've written that I'm working with the New York Times on, and it is vision of the real future impact of the technologies that are just coming to the fore today. Consider this scenario in the not so distant future. It's Monday night, and ninth grader named Sophia is preparing for her algebra class the next morning. She opens her computer, and after logging in, she hears the familiar voice of her own math teacher. "Good evening, Sophia. Hope you had some fun after school. Did you have practice or did you just hang out? Now it's time to study. I reviewed your recent work and found that there are 3 skills that you have not yet mastered that are required to do tonight's homework assignment. So to help you, I prepared 3 short tutorials that you should complete before starting the problem set. I sent an email to your mom to update her on your progress and to let her know about the skills that you are still working on. All of this will help make sure you do the best work going forward. I will see you in the morning. Let's go." Here's the transformative part about all of this. The voice, the instruction, and most importantly, the creation of tutorials was all done with generative AI. Each of Sophia's classmates also received their own tailored tutorials and assignments from their AI teacher in the form of her same voice. The most powerful new development is that Sophia's human teacher will have a full inventory of the progress made by every student the night before her class starts the next day. In the morning, she'll be able to quickly and easily create small groups to allow students to work together on areas of similar need. This is the future of instruction, and it won't cost that much. Now, I have a 30-year-old daughter in 2 days. Annie's going to be 30. You might see her. She's the house reporter on CNN, on TV all the time. And I have Sophie and Benji, and then I have the tallest one over there, Charlie. When I go in for Charlie's conferences as a 14-year-old, they show me some of his work. When he was younger, they said, "Look how bad his penmanship is." I nod. He gets along with others. I go home. When I went in for Annie, it was the same thing. And in 1976, when my parents went in to see Mr. Carbuty in Fairfield, Connecticut, they got the same thing. Parents have no idea what's going on today. That's all changeable. That's all viable. It's all doable with the power of what a large language model and machine learning, what you hear called generative AI, is doing, is possible. The big change that's coming is that it won't be overly costly. It's not a NASA-sized project to do this, but it had been in a world before the creation of content by a machine. So that my company, which is the largest provider of digital curriculum in the United States, we have $40 million contract in Philadelphia, providing digital curriculum the old way. My company can take that data that's housed in our curriculum. You can tell me what you want it to do. So you will give it 10 different learning outcomes you want to achieve. You can take the curriculum, put it in the machine with a lot of what's called middleware, a lot of stuff done by smart women and men, and the machine will create curriculum that looks and feels just like ours, but for learning purposes that are completely different. Not new people, not lots of workers, the machine. That is what's coming. Now, what makes it in the future and not the near-term future? It obviously challenges the basic conceptual idea of the modern classroom as we know it. Teachers are really the center beneficiary because they can spend much more of their time teaching, not grading, not sorting, not providing feedback. That feedback that was in the voice of Sophia's teacher is not done by Sophia. It's used by Sophia. It's managed by Sophia, but it's not created by her. So you have the interaction between this machine and what it's capable of doing, and obviously the workforce that's affected. That workforce is the largest union in this, there are two of them in this country. That has to be navigated. What also has to be navigated is the involvement and true involvement of a parent at home. Parent, caregiver, third-party provider of services to children who are not lucky enough to have a parent involved in their educational process. It's a big leap. Los Angeles lost 200,000 students during COVID. No one knows where they are. Some of them showed up in private schools and parochial schools, Jewish day schools, but not enough to make up for them. There's a huge truancy problem going on in this country. This is another a way forward. Generative AI today is about using the machine to replicate a kid's work, not using it to create the assessment-driven, outcome-related, special focus on each kid's learning needs. And companies like ours are forging ahead. We have tons of people working on this. We have people in India working on this. We have people in the United States working on this. And most importantly, we have people working with policymakers to try to make funds available for doing these kinds of things. Early innovators tend not to succeed. That's a huge problem here. Would you have rather, early on, how many people used Ask Jeeves? Ask Jeeves, where's Ask Jeeves today? Excite, AOL, Google attached search to an ad engine called AdSense, and Microsoft's the most amazing because they went through the whole process. But in our industry, the Ask Jeeves are out there now. A lot of heat and focus on them, but they won't make the kinds of large-scale impact that I want us to be able to make and others out there. Huge curriculum owners, the big publishers, are stuck in the middle trying to still serve an old model with textbooks. I'm sure for you who have children and grandchildren, they're still bringing home big textbooks. No need for that. That's a one-way street. There's no feedback. It's not dynamic, but it is a model with money attached to it. So that is going to also play out in the speed of adoption of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to pause there. And even though this is a talk, this is a topic that must impact all of you. You think about it. So I will ask you, before I sum up, questions for me.
We have time for about 2 to 4 minutes of questions.
Okay, you can recognize people since you know.
So I'd like to know if this work, is this work being applied on the segment of learners who have learning disabilities?
Yeah, so I've done this before. When I'm this hungry, it's good to laugh. The question was, how is this going to be adopted to learners who have special needs, and that's a very broad spectrum of learners and increasing in size. The answer to that is it absolutely will, and in some ways earlier, especially around reading, where there is, and this gets back to not what you might think, there's more money available for experimentation in special education than there is anywhere else. So there will be early examples of it, but they will be specialized, so not easily replicable, but there will be early benefits to that. I don't know the people. If I know you, I'm not picking you. So Amy and David, put your hands down.
Thank you. I used to teach in Detroit, in inner city high school. 80% of my kids were there to get a certificate of attendance, not learn. How do you get those kids to learn something with AI?
The answer obviously is you can't, right? I mean, you have to have a teacher, a parent, community activists create accountability in ways that social promotion, which is what you're referring to, credit recovery is another word for it, where students are getting credit for showing up, not for learning. No Child Left Behind was an attempt to do that. What the problem was is that the results of the testing were so bad that it just created so much anger and hostility. We'll have to come back for talks too, because this is a very big topic you're raising, which has nothing to do with AI. It has to do with, A Nation at Risk was written in 1984, and today in 2024, the problems are just as bad. Okay.
My big question here is it changes the entire teaching model for a teacher. How are you going to integrate what you're offering with teacher training, re-education, going down to the university level, creating model centers for teachers to do?
Well, I do think that you just hit on a huge point, which is that it is my hope that it will dismantle the sixth year or the passing, we're talking inside baseball. Most of the training that's required for this is paraprofessional training. The teachers are well beyond this, they need access to it. So as part of the purchase of curriculum like this, it's gonna have to be a lot of money spent on professional development that goes alongside with the how to use it. But it's not difficult, it's more like, Einstein said the hardest problems are simple, not easy. This is not one of those problems. There's just a lot of pieces to it, and it just takes time and resources. In Philadelphia, we spent a lot of money on teacher training, but that's because the superintendent chose to. And it's a big question. We have one more.
What do you do with all those, just to name, the publishers and all the people who write textbooks for a living? What do we do with all of them? Where do they fit into the picture?
I think there will be enormous job loss. Now, that's true of my company. We're a very big publisher. So, we're as we get bigger, we're more like a big than we were when we were small. But there is no question on a much larger scale that this machinery is going to just gut the SIC code employment levels of certain professions. It won't be teachers, though. We need more teachers, not less teachers. We need much more teachers, not much fewer teachers. But the creation of curriculum, the creation of intellectual property is moving more and more towards a very specialized high-end model and a lot of generic, as a friend of mine likes to say, undistinguished excellence. Undistinguished excellence. That's an interesting concept. Can't grade that. I am getting, hook myself here and get off the stage, but we need more teachers. These models, we need smaller groups with better teachers. We need less paraprofessionals. We need more fully credentialed teachers in the classroom. I don't think I'm allowed anymore, but when I have to give you one very big thank you. My daughters were much more present because I worked differently then. Always asked me what I do for a living, so I hope Charlie got a little piece of what I do for a living today. Thank you all. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Jonathan. Our next presenter will be Dr. Jessica Eichler. Dr. Eichler is a board-certified physician in internal medicine and hospice palliative medicine. She graduated from UNIBE, which is medical school that was located in the Dominican Republic, and completed her residencies in internal medicine and palliative care at Florida Atlantic University and the University of Miami. And she currently serves as chief of the palliative care department at Boca Raton Regional Hospital, part of the Baptist Health System, and Trustbridge Hospice. She is a passionate advocate for understanding how palliative care medicine helps us to maximize quality and dignity when we approach end of life. She is the mother of 3 children, Ella, Vivian, and Charlotte. And Charlotte has fabulous red shoes, which I hope that you'll have a chance to see later. Yes.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. So Rabbi Dan and I have been discussing a lot this year the general aversion that many Jews have towards hospice and palliative care. Since these aspects of medical care are vital for everyone, we've been exploring ways to help people feel more at ease with them. A recurring theme in our conversation is the Jewish principle of choosing life. The Torah emphasizes this commandment in Deuteronomy, stating, "I call heaven and earth to witness you today. I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life." This raises a profound question. How do we reconcile the shift from aggressive treatment aimed at prolonging life to comfort-oriented care that allows for a natural death, including the withdrawal of life support for terminal patients? People often ask me how I got into this line of work and express disbelief at what they perceive as a depressing profession. I would like to share my journey and how I arrived here, why I find hospice and palliative medicine fulfilling, and about my unique ability to comfort people during some of the most challenging times in their lives. I grew up as a Jewish girl from Staten Island, where the ethos of my family revolved around medicine, helping others and saving lives. My father was a primary care physician in Brooklyn, dedicated to caring for his patients. My mother was a nurse practitioner, and discussions at home often centered on medical topics. I admired my father's intelligence and the affection his patients had for him, as well as his deep investment in their health and their lives. I aspired to be just like him, but I struggled with an aversion for sick people. I felt uncomfortable around illness. I didn't know how to interact with those who were dying or grieving. I often tried to avoid such situations completely. This changed when, in my late teens, my grandmother was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. As one of the oldest grandchildren, I was expected to assist in her care. The thought of touching a sick person, bathing her, changing her diapers was distressing for me, but my love for her compelled me to help. Through this experience, I managed to overcome my discomfort. We formed a profound bond, and her willingness to relinquish personal space and vanity taught me that her vulnerability and my caring for her didn't diminish her dignity. It showed me the fulfillment that could come from caring for someone who was gravely ill. I no longer feared sickness, and this transformation allowed me to pursue my lifelong dream of becoming a doctor like my father. That experience was one of the best things I've ever done, and it changed my life and shaped who I am today. Later, after completing medical school and starting my residency in internal medicine, I realized that the practice of medicine had evolved significantly since my father's time. The traditional model of primary care, where doctors spent ample time with their patients, had become increasingly unfeasible due to changes in insurance and healthcare structures. Additionally, modern medicine often prioritizes keeping people alive at all costs, both physically and financially. I witnessed much suffering, even when the likelihood of improvement was negligible. The more advanced our technologies and treatments became, the less we seemed to accept the inevitability of death. During my early residency days, I observed families often pushing for aggressive treatment when a cure was virtually impossible and the quality of life was rapidly declining. While we could keep patients alive with life support or chemotherapy, it often felt morally injurious to watch them suffer needlessly for a few extra days or weeks without any scientific hope of improvement. Many doctors found it difficult to convey bad news or explain the benefits of comfort-focused care. Some worried that recommending such options would seem like giving up, while others felt compelled to offer every possible treatment as a matter of protocol, neglecting alternatives like hospice. A turning point for me came during an intensive care unit rotation in my intern year, followed by an elective rotation in hospice. I saw patients who had previously been suffering in the ICU, surrounded with tubes and monitors, transition to hospice care. In this setting, they rested comfortably with their families. They were able to go through the natural process of dying without suffering, allowing their deaths to unfold in their own time. I discovered my calling, particularly because anyone who needs hospice care can receive it, regardless of insurance type, immigration status, or financial means. After completing my residency, I immediately pursued a fellowship in this discipline, knowing exactly what I wanted to do since my intern year. I learned that hospice care isn't just for those with days to weeks to live. I witnessed hospice doctors providing for patients chronic illnesses as well as terminal symptoms, often for months or even sometimes years. I saw compassionate physicians, nurses, social workers, chaplains, and aides forming bonds with patients and their families, reminiscent of my father's relationships with his patients many years ago. In this environment, I witnessed the support, relief, and comfort that these caregivers brought to patients, reinforcing my conviction that I had chosen the right profession. Interestingly, my role eventually evolved into that of a palliative care physician at a hospital, which had not been my original intention. As a hospice doctor, I typically enter a room to find patients and families eager to see me with relief and gratitude, knowing I will bring them comfort. However, as a palliative care doctor, I often encounter a misconception that I am there to persuade them to give up and transition to hospice. It's such a common misunderstanding that viral videos like this one have been made on the subject.
Hi. We got a call that this house is on fire. How can we be helpful? Well, the house is on fire, but I'm worried if you go in there, it might send the wrong message. Wait, what? I'm with the fire department. Yes, I know. I think you could be really helpful, but I think the family might be worried something is wrong if the fire department shows up at their house. But something is wrong. Their house is on fire. Do you think there's any way you could talk to them, but not use the word fire? What? I just think if the family hears the word fire, they might lose hope. But I am with the fire department, and I am here to help this family with their fire. Right, totally. I think you could be really helpful, but I'm just not sure this family is in a place where they're ready to meet the fire department right now. Can we call you the water support team?
So palliative care is usually consulted when a patient has a serious illness and is experiencing significant symptoms related to their condition or its treatments. We are often called upon to assist patients in making complex decisions, providing them with the clinical information necessary to make informed choices. While we arrive to help the situation when it feels dire, we are frequently viewed erroneously as the harbingers of hopelessness. When I enter as a palliative care physician, the reception is often not so warm. Instead of families and patients that are happy to see me, it's often other healthcare providers who express relief that I've arrived, as they witness patients suffering while the medical system focuses on finding a cure that is out of reach. Sometimes even their symptoms of pain or shortness of breath are being ignored, and that takes a back seat to the aim of prolonging life, no matter the quality. I have found that many patients are unaware of their prognosis and the burdens they may face in pursuit of additional time. Some may choose to continue aggressive treatments, while others may prefer to shift their focus to comfort measures. A palliative care consult does not automatically lead to hospice care. It represents an opportunity for patients to explore their options with a clearer understanding of what lies ahead, and the possibility of treating uncomfortable symptoms even while pursuing aggressive care. Frequently, knowledge and understanding bring peace. Most often, when I successfully fulfill my role, patients and families express gratitude and inquire about my next visit. These conversations around serious illness have been recognized as a vital skill by the American College of Physicians. The FAU Internal Medicine Residency program includes palliative care as a required rotation for all residents, ensuring that they gain experience in this essential area of medicine. When I speak with residents who round with me about their future plans, I encourage them to choose wisely. I believe that while we select our profession based on our identities, our professions also shape who we become. Through my work as a palliative care and hospice doctor, I've evolved into a more compassionate individual, a better communicator, and someone who is more resilient and forgiving. This field has taught me to let go of trivial grievances and to focus on the broader picture of life. My experiences have underscored the importance of enjoying life and appreciating the blessings I have, my health, my family, and the responsibilities I carry in caring for others. I've learned to always choose life and to offer hope wherever possible. However, I now understand that choosing life does not mean prolonging suffering in the absence of a chance for cure. The work I do does not preclude the possibility of miracles occurring. Having witnessed many people pass away, I have come to realize that the love we create and the connections we foster truly matter. The moments spent with those who hold your hand, expressing concern and reminiscing about shared experiences, are what truly count in the end. These final weeks often serve as a condensed snapshot of one's life, reflecting the themes and values one has embodied throughout their journey. What people say about you and the love they shower upon you in your final days mirrors the love you've given and received during your life. It's not the quantity of connections that matters, but the quality. Community plays a crucial role in every phase of life. Hospice care at end of life allows individuals and families to celebrate and experience their feelings and connections without the burden of minute-to-minute patient care. It eliminates the distress of watching a loved one suffer as they navigate the natural process of dying. In conclusion, my work in hospice and palliative care has profoundly influenced my understanding of life and death, enriching my perspective on what it means to truly live. It is a privilege to be present during such pivotal moments in people's lives, and I'm grateful to have found my calling in this compassionate and meaningful field. Thank you.
I want to extend very special thanks to Mariya and Jonathan and Jessica for sharing with us today. For some, you do this frequently. For others, this was out of the comfort zone, and just very, very grateful. You are welcome to stay and engage with our speakers for as long as they're willing to stay. And just as a reminder, our afternoon service today will begin at 4 p.m. in the Schaefer sanctuary. Sorry, not the Schaefer. It's this time of the day, right? In the Singer sanctuary, he's sitting right there in the back. I should watch my step, right, Merle? In the Singer Sanctuary at 4 p.m., we will begin with the Martyrology and Yisker portions of our service and then move into the afternoon and the Ela sections. Will probably be finished somewhere around 6:15 p.m. A reminder of Erev Sukkot services on Wednesday at the Beck campus, next week's on Friday night, our Blue Jeans Shabbat for our high and new members, and also a reminder to join us for Simchat Torah at 5:30 in a couple of weeks, and also for Yisker the following day for Simchat Torah and other wonderful programs that we have at Temple Bethel. We wish everybody a meaningful and easy fast. Actually, if our presenters can come forward, we'll take a quick picture and then we'll